Hey everyone, welcome back. This is going to be the second edition of the Modern Drummer series. This is the second article I wrote for them on Swing Style 101. This is entitled The Other Half. When I first started playing drums, for the majority of my early career, I just played rock. And so everything was super kick and snare heavy. So my left hand was just kind of riding eighth notes on whatever cymbal it could get its hands on. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't even really know, I don't remember what my left foot did at all. I think it might have played on all quarter notes, or I really wasn't paying that much attention to it. So as I started to develop as a jazz drummer, and I hear this all the time when I was first getting started, like, when your bass drum's too heavy, everything's too loud, your ride cymbal is weak, and we would play these fast tempos. And when we played fast, my left leg feel like it was gonna fall off because I hadn't really done. It was just a hunk of meat pretty much at that point. I hadn't really done anything with it. There's an art to learning how to balance that out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you, it's a variation that I kind of put on an exercise that Jojo Mayer showed me a while back. And it's basically this exercise for four-limb independent dynamics. And it's simply a matter of starting the whole thing at like mezzo piano, mezzo forte, raising all four limbs up equally, dropping all four limbs down to about as soft as you can play. Then, while all four are down, you just raise one at a time and lower it back. Raise one and lower without the other ones moving. It's kind of an ass kicker, but it's a lot of fun and really will help you dial in. Otherwise, you can sound too much like I did, which is when I was trying to comp, it sounded like when I was like in college and developing, it sounded a little too much like this. I'm kind of lying because I doubt I played anything remote. Not that that was hip, but whatever I was playing was way less hip than that, I'm sure. But you get the idea. It's just all lots of snare drum and bass drum, right? So there's an art to be able to make those little adjustments to be able to go. So in there, I'm making constant dynamic adjustments depending on kind of what the phrase needs. Sometimes I want that ride cymbal to really push and be the focal point, and then everything I'm comping is taking a back seat, so I kind of duck those underneath. And then when I need to be a little bit more aggressive on the actual drums, or I need to just pull out one bass drum accent, bang, boom, and then my next bass drum is softer. After running through this exercise, I got a lot better at that. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take one of the little one-bar phrases that I wrote out in the Modern Drummer article. It goes 1 and 3, 4 and. And I'm gonna make a little 2-bar loop of that, and I'm gonna do this exercise. I'm gonna raise it up and lower it. I'm doing it for 2 bars because I'm gonna play it for a bar, and then I want a bar off, basically, to evaluate, was that too loud, was that too soft, etc. So I'm gonna loop that, and I'm gonna do it with a metronome, which I highly recommend because this is really difficult to pull off, and you're gonna want a metronome, so as you raise the volume, you don't accidentally raise the tempo, or when you lower the volume, you don't accidentally lower the tempo, because those are the common tendencies. All right, so let's give this a shot. Okay, some things to think about while you're working on this.
Number one, this is really hard. You will likely throw some drumsticks across some rooms when you're practicing this, because it's really hard to lift one limb by itself without the other ones jumping somehow. Also keep in mind, dynamically, each instrument has a different range. For example, hi-hat can only go so loud, so just whatever that loudness can be for your hi-hat is as loud as it's going to be, and that's okay. Think about what technique you need to use to play really quietly versus really loud. It's totally fine to shift some technique as you get louder or get softer. Just be aware of what you're doing, so when the time arises that you need this, you can use that proper technique. Although we're doing it with a jazz groove, obviously this exercise can be used for any sort of drum groove. At the beginning, I use this Afro-Cuban groove. It's a great way to really get inside any sort of groove that you're working on, so you have full and complete control of it. The body thinks in halves, so what one part of your body is doing, it wants to also do with the other half. Now for us, because we're dealing with 4 separate limbs, that means whatever you're doing with your bass drum, you're either going to get your right hand to also try to do, or your body's going to try to trick you to have your other leg do. So if one leg is doing something, your biggest competitor is likely going to be your other leg or the arm that's on that side of the body. So be aware of that when you're going through this. This really comes in handy if you're going to have to sit in on somebody else's kit, and let's say they have a really loud bass drum, or you're playing in some room where they only mic a couple of the instruments. So for example, they only mic the kick drum and the snare drum, so your right hand's going to have to bring out its part maybe a little bit more.
Okay, so give this exercise a shot. Remember that it can be used for all sorts of styles of music. Any sort of groove that involves all 4 limbs, you can use this for. We're using it in a jazz setting. I'm using it when I'm referencing that other half article. I'm using it so that we can gain more control over the fact that one half of our body, even though it's kind of diagonally, one half, our left hand and our right foot, might be more dominant than our right hand and left foot when it comes to playing grooves. So we want to strengthen one half, which is our right hand and left foot, while lowering or having more subtlety and more lower dynamic control with our other half, the left hand and the right foot. Okay, good luck.